Hi, everyone. My name is Kelley. I work at the Metropolitan Library System, but I'm also on the board of the Friends of the Oklahoma Center for the Book. And the Oklahoma Center for the Book promotes reading and authors. And we are so lucky today because we have the winner of the picture book category of the 2021 Oklahoma Book Awards, and her name is Barbara Lowell. So we give her a big hand. Hi, Miss Barbara. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kelley. It's great to be here.
Oh, good. Now, do you live in Oklahoma or are you in a surrounding state, perhaps?
I live in Broken Arrow. I just moved here from Tulsa a year ago, so I lived in Tulsa for a very long time. I live in Oklahoma, and I'm happy to be here.
Yay. Well, we're happy that you're so close. Well, I'm going to get started with some basic questions. First of all, though, I had to do a little research. You know, it's only fair if I do a little research. And Publishers Weekly said about my Mastodon that Wilson Peale was an important 18th century portraitist. It's a difficult word to say sometimes. And also the proprietor of America's first natural history museum in Philadelphia. Lowell, that's you, the author of Sparky and Spike. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Imagines a voice for Peale's young daughter, Sibylla, who helps her father and brothers as they reassemble a mastodon skeleton for display. My favorite place is beneath its bones, she says. It's a very precious book, I thought.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so Yes, I appreciate you writing it. So I'll let everyone see what it looks like. This is the cover. It's very pretty. So tell me, Miss Barbara, you have quite a few books under your belt. When did you start writing?
I started as a child, but then I always knew I wanted to be a writer, but I really didn't know I wanted to write for children until I had my own daughter and started reading a lot of picture books to her. And I just thought about it and thought about it, but it really wasn't until Anna Myers, the fantastic writer, and the winner of many book awards and also the Lifetime Achievement Award, moved to Tulsa, and she invited anyone who was interested in writing to participate in our group. And that's when I thought, this is my opportunity to do this. I'm going to try. And that was in 2003. And then in 2005 is when I first started trying to write picture books. Before then, I was writing very bad short stories and articles. But Anna asked me to write a picture book based on this article that I had written that she said wasn't very good. And so that was my first experience. And I didn't know how to write one, so I had to learn how and did a lot of reading picture books, and especially based on history. That's what I write, and nonfiction. So that's when I first started, was writing picture books in 2005. And
Wow.
years.
So what is your work schedule like when you're writing?
Usually I write in the afternoon, maybe between about, it just depends, but just generally between about 1 and 4 o'clock or 12 and 4. And it just depends what I'm doing. If I can be doing multiple things. I can be working on a first draft, which for me is the hardest part. I can be researching, I can be revising, which is the part that I love. I love to do revising. So it just depends, but I generally would write about 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, but not always. It just depends. So
you have to be moved by the spirit to feel like writing that day?
No, not. It's just like if there's other things that are interfering that I have to take care of. But I also have a website, and I have a blog which I need to work on again. And So there's different things, but I would generally say about 4 hours a day, and that's about all I can do. It's after that I can't do it anymore. But and then of course I'm reading a lot too. So generally, 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours, I guess.
I see. I see. What inspired you to choose my Mastodon to focus on this time?
I first heard about Charles Wilson Peale when I was researching another book, and he was a friend of Thomas Jefferson, and that was the focus of that book. And I learned that he and his family actually lived in a natural history museum. Well, I thought that was so interesting, and I've always loved natural history museums, and so I thought it was perfect. And then I did a lot of research on him, and I decided to write the book from the point of view of his daughter Sibylla, who was the youngest child at the time of the discovery of the Mastodons. So I mean, it's fictionalized, obviously, but it was a lot of fun to become Sibylla and to write it, and but that's what inspired me was that they lived in a museum. I thought, how wonderful to be a 4-year-old child and to live in a museum where your parents are not telling you you can't touch it. She tells in the book, like, she's going to tell the visitors not to touch the animals, not to pet them. But of course, she can do what she wants in the museum. And also, I thought, I imagined that there's this huge mastodon and it becomes her friend. That was the inspiration. And it took, now this took me, because I first had this idea about 2006. So it took a long time to write this book. And it changed over the course of many, many years. I didn't always work on it, but it's totally different than it started. I mean, when I started it. And the cool thing was, I went to this workshop, and it was at Anna Meyer's house with the writer from Arkansas, Darcy Pattison, about writing picture books. And I brought this manuscript, and that workshop changed it to this format. It's been edited a lot since then, but and that manuscript won the Catherine Patterson Prize at Hunger Mountain, which is the journal for the Vermont College of Fine Arts. And the judge was Kathy Appelt, who is a fantastic writer from Texas. And it was and I had met her too. And it was such a wonderful thing. So there's so many wonderful things to me about this book, that these connections that I made. So can I tell you, I'm interrupting your questions, but.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Okay. The editor for this book's name is Amy Noveski, and she is an author, and she's also an editor. And she is a direct descendant of Charles Wilson Peale through his oldest son, Raphael. And I thought that was pretty amazing. So she knew a lot about the Peale family. So it was exciting to work with her.
I thought that was very sweet that all the brothers, had artist names, Reuben and Raphael and Rembrandt.
Rubens, yeah. And also I think he had I can't remember exactly, I think about 11 children. They were all named after artists. So there was actually an artist that, we don't know, but her name was Sibylla. So yeah, he named them all after artists. And he was an exceptional artist too. And he, I think I have there's a famous a painting he did of George Washington that everyone knows. You just may not realize that he did it, but he painted Jefferson and Hamilton, founding fathers. So he was very well known and respected. But yes, the museum is what interested me. That was the fun part.
Oh, wow. Okay, my computer just world. It thought I was ignoring it. Yeah, I was going to ask you about rewrites, but I think you already answered that question, that you enjoyed that. How many times did you have to rewrite my Mastodon before it was ready?
I don't know, a lot. But when I finally got, after that workshop, when I finally really got the correct format for it, it wasn't that difficult. And that was the manuscript that was submitted to the editor. And then we made changes on it. And she added things that I think were really good. Now, the title originally wasn't my Mastodon, and she chose that title. And I kind of I didn't want it that title, but anyway, the reason it makes sense though, because in the book, Sibylla is painting a picture for Rembrandt to take instead of the Mastodon to Europe, and she says I call it my Mastodon, and it was her Mastodon. So I think it is the right title, but Amy added just really nice things, and we worked on revisions together. And then she's also the editor. You were going to ask me about Sparky and Spike. She was also the editor on that book, but for a different publisher.
I see. I see. So can you reveal what was the original title?
Oh yes, but it's kind of creepy, I guess. It was called, I mean, I know why they changed it. It was Sibylla Under the Bones, and it wasn't even Sibylla Under the Mastodon's Bones. But when Amy said, no, we're going to call it my Mastodon, I said, well, can you call it Sibylla Under the Mastodon's Bones? Just no. But I mean, it is kind of creepy, so it wasn't a spooky story.
You love creepy. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know. I thought I liked it. I mean, I liked it forever, but oh well. I think it's better
editors. Yeah, oftentimes editors know best.
Yes, I think so.
So, have you received a lot of feedback about the book, this recent book?
From people saying they liked it. Oh, yeah, sure. And especially a lot of people love the artwork, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And the artist, Antonio Marineri, if I'm Marinoni, I said it wrong. He lives in Italy. And what amazed me about the artwork, not just the details, but it's all painted in watercolor. And if you look at the floor, you can see the knot holes, and that is all watercolor. And then he also has these miniatures, these little miniatures, and one of them were of actual paintings. And one of them is the painting called Rubens, I think it's called Rubens Peel with Geranium. And Rembrandt Peel painted it. So there's a miniature in the book that you can clearly see. And then as you're reading, at certain points, you'll see a geranium. And you first see it outside, and then you'll see someone watering it, but you don't see who that is. Well, at the very end of the book, where they have the party, Rubens brings in the geranium. And I thought that was so clever. I mean, he took the actual painting, which is in the book, and then he had Rubens with the geranium, the real Rubens, in the book, with the geranium. So he has little fun things like that he added. The dog and the Mastodon toy. And
yes,
that's what's so neat about having an illustrator come up with really fantastic ideas about a manuscript that you submit. I don't know what's going to happen with it, and then to see this, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing. He's amazing. Of course, I don't know him, but
well, you two make a fabulous pair, because the book is very sweet and very inviting for people to look at it. And I wanted to be an archaeologist, anthropologist before I started school. Like as a preschool child, I was determined that this is what I would be. And so I love to look for rocks and stones and bones and fossils. So I really related to Sibylla, because I know I protected all of my fossils as though they were precious and valuable.
Well, they are, and I love that too. I love rock. When I grew up, I had a rock collection in a box. It was like a big cardboard box with all these rocks in it, and to find a fossil was wonderful. So,
Yeah, about the fourth grade, I found a trilobite
oh my
curled up
goodness.
really tight. So that
Yeah,
has been my special object all this time. And of course, I didn't get to be an anthropologist, archaeologist, but that's okay. I can read all about them.
right. That's right.
So
That's why books
what
are
did
so great.
what did you want to be when you were a child?
A writer. I wanted to be a writer, but um, and then I never did anything about it. You know, when I was a kid, I'd write little stories and things, but then I never did anything. And then when I was older, I just thought I'd be a writer of adult books. Oh, that went nowhere. And it's probably because that's not something that I I would really want to do. So
Mm.
when I said before, when I started reading picture books to my daughter, they were so engaging that I have a huge collection of picture books and
Me
a
too.
lot of you know, and it's great. And you can see some of them over here, and so I love to read them, and especially biographies. I love biographies. So that's well, I never did anything, and it's probably good because maybe I would have just given up, right? I could have just given up and said, "Well, I can't write anything," and I couldn't. For adults, forget it. So, um, so I waited until I was much older, but I think it was probably worth it.
Yeah,
And
it
if you
sounds like
probably, a lot of people who want to be writers and they're older think, I'm too old to do this. No, you're not too old to do it. Just do what you want and fulfill your dream. This was my dream and I made it happen. But, it's a lot of work and heartache, rejections, but that there's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things about it. And I think the best thing is all the friends I've made, all the writer friends, and how we support each other. It's great.
it's a very fabulous community. Once you locate them, then they can help you and you can help them, and you're a resource for one another.
Yes, yes, I know. I did actually. Somebody asked me a question, a writer I know yesterday, about nonfiction, and she's a fiction writer, but she wanted to write some nonfiction. And I was so happy that she asked me and that I could actually answer her questions about it. So it just made me feel really good.
Well, and that leads me to wonder what's the I mean, I know the difference between fiction and nonfiction. I prefer to read nonfiction in my spare time. Did you find one more difficult or one easier than the other?
I too read adult nonfiction, a little bit of fiction, and a children's fiction I read, but um, they're just different. I think with nonfiction, it's you do all this research and then you have to find the focus, and that to me makes it more difficult than fiction. And you can't with nonfiction, you can't make things up. Now that's why I could not write my Mastodon as nonfiction. Really, there wasn't that
There
much.
wasn't enough material.
No, there
Hmm.
wasn't. So if there's not enough material, then I'll write it fictionalized. But everything I write is either nonfiction or fiction based on a true story. For some reason, I am unable, or maybe I don't want to, but I'm unable just to make something out of thin air, But I like, I guess because I just really am interested in people. And when I was growing up, I always loved reading biographies and biographies of people who I could learn from that inspired me. And so that's what I like to read, and also history. And so I guess that's what I like to write. But everything is either nonfiction or based on a true story. So I guess it's historical fiction, but I don't call it that. It's based on a true story because sometimes a lot of it is true. But not all of it.
Awesome. Someday I will try that. I will make an attempt with your encouragement, because there's a nonfiction idea that I have, but I'm not really sure how to move forward. And then I have 5,800 fictional ideas about writing, but I'm not sure, I'm not sure how to flesh it out. So do you have obviously you said you had an editor, so do you have an agent as well? And do they help put you together with people, and how does that work?
I have, embarrassed to say, I have had 2 agents already. I think I want another one. I mean, I'm not working with them anymore. But that is something that happens a lot in publishing. You know, I didn't really realize that. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. As far as, yes, an agent, when you have an agent, then that when I had an agent, I would send my manuscripts to the agent. And then they would, if they were an editorial agent, then they would work on edits with me if they felt they needed the edits. And one time, and it was with my second agent, it just went out as it was and it sold. And so when they feel that the manuscript is just right, they will they will send it to editors and publishing houses that they feel would be interested in that manuscript. So I don't send it out to, I didn't send it out to editors. They did. So that's how it works. But I mean, my first 2 books, the first one, I sent that out myself. Oh, actually, my first 3, the very first one was purchased, but it wasn't published because it was an imprint of Random House, and Random House closed the children's division of that imprint. So it wasn't published. And then the second one I sent out, and it sold. And then I asked them if I could write, I pitched an idea to them, and then that was the second one. So, and then I was asked again by that publisher to write something. These were early readers. So I've done that myself, but if you have an agent, pretty much you don't do that, the agent does that. So. And then the advantage is they are allowed to submit to publishing houses that I'm not allowed to submit to. Many publishing houses are closed to unsolicited manuscripts. But if you don't have an agent, there is a way around that a little bit. If you go to conferences, like I guess OWFI and SCBWI conferences, then you can submit to agents or editors that present there. So you can do that. Then you can also take classes online through, there's like Writer's Loft, Writer's Barn, the Children's Academy, and sometimes they have editors, and you can actually submit, not usually a manuscript for sale, but for critique. So things like that. So there are opportunities. And then there are other houses that are open to unsolicited too, manuscripts too. But if you have an agent, it's easier. Plus, then they negotiate the contract. And I actually have negotiated contracts, so I can do it. But what happens is I will get more, when I want changes, I will get more, no, we're not going to do that, than an agent will. But it's still kind of fun. It was still kind of fun to do it, to negotiate a contract. I think I've negotiated 3. So.
Ooh.
That was fun.
Now, you mentioned a couple of acronyms for writers groups. Can you tell me what the acronym stands for?
Oh, OWFI. Honestly, I'm not really that familiar with that, but it's the Oklahoma Writers Federation, I guess. I don't know what that is. Something. SCBWI is the one I belong to. It's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. So immediately when you join, you learn SCBWI. I guess you don't want to say that all the time. But it's an international organization, and we have an Oklahoma region. So we have our own conferences too. And usually they alternate between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And then we have workshops and other things. But because of COVID, we finally were able to meet as a group recently, but we didn't meet for over a year. So our next conference is in April. But that was the best thing for me to do, was to join SCBWI. And I've attended their national conferences in Los Angeles, I think about 8 of them. And it's just, what's so wonderful? They have all these famous children's writers, and you get to meet them especially when you buy their books. They sign them for you, and you get to talk to them, and it's just such a thrill. I didn't meet Judy Blume, but she was on the stage. I heard Judy Blume and Tommy DiPaolo and Sid Fleischman and all these Kadir Nelson, just tons of people, Ryan Collier, and it's really, it's fun. But so I just signed up for their conference again, the summer conference, but it's virtual. So, and the last 2 were virtual, which they were really good, but it's not the same. But anyway.
Okay. Well, we are almost out of time. So let's see, which question is the most exciting? Because you really covered most of the questions that I thought about asking with your other answers, and I so appreciate that. So here's the way out wacky question. If you could have dinner with 3 authors living, okay, I'm even going to take the word authors out. If you could have dinner with 3 famous people, whoever you want, living or dead, who would they be?
Okay, well, absolutely Buster Keaton.
Me too.
I love Buster Keaton. I have all his movies. I broke my wrist in 2009, and in 2010, I had to have surgery on it, unfortunately. And I found Buster Keaton on TV, and then I just got into Buster Keaton, and it helped me so much through the recovery. So absolutely Buster Keaton. I'm going to pick these. Okay. Amelia Earhart. I wrote a book about Amelia Earhart, and that was really interesting. And then I could ask her what happened to her. And oh my gosh, I just like people. So there'd be so many people. I guess I met Sid Fleischman, the author of Sid Fleischman, but he actually died like 6 months after I met him. So I would eat with him again, because he was such a wonderful person, and I would love to learn more about writing biographies from him. So I guess that's Buster, Amelia, and Sid Fleischman.
Well, it sounds delightful. I'm ready. Let's call them.
I don't know if they don't fight or anything.
Well, I'm sure that they would get along just fine, and I would love to be a fly on the wall if you can ever arrange that.
Yeah, we'd find out what happened to Amelia, but I think I know, but.
Yeah, me too. Well, Barbara, it has been thrilling to visit with you. I've learned so much. I'm really inspired to pursue some of my ideas that I've had boiling on the back burner. And I hope that you keep up the good work and that you can submit again for next year's Oklahoma Book Awards.
I can't. I had a book that was supposed to come out in August. And it's been bumped up to 2023. So I can't submit for a while. But
that's okay. You can still
submit old ones.
Okay.
But anyway, I want to thank, this is my award. This is my medal. I love it. And on the back, it's engraved, which is wonderful. So I want to thank you, Kelley, and the Oklahoma Department of Libraries and the Center for the Book and Connie Armstrong and everybody in Oklahoma, all the Oklahoma authors and everyone that's helped me so much. And thank you so much, Kelley. I've really enjoyed talking with you. If you ever want to contact me about writing, I have a website. It's just barbaralowell.com, and contact me. And you can ask me questions or about writing or whatever.
I certainly will. And
Can I ask you a question? Do you ever go to the festival in September, the Oklahoma Book Festival? Do you ever go there? Oh, good. You're the. I went one time for Sparky and Spike. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. So if I get to go again in person, when we have a person, I will look for you.
oh, yes, please do. A lot of times I'm in the children's tent because I'll read aloud to kids.
Okay. I think that's where I was. Well, no, I don't know where I was. I spoke with, but it was a lot of fun. I loved it. It was a great
good.
festival.
Yes. Well, we hope to see you there. I hope to see you there, and everyone who can tune in. And thank you to Department of Libraries and the Oklahoma Center for the Book. And we'll see everyone next time we do an interview with an author. Thank you, Barbara.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelley. Bye.